do it.
Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait, what's this called? Big announcement coming soon? Yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Big Announcement Coming Soon podcast. I'm Michael Bull, joined by the usual co-host today of Nick, Jeff, and David. Gentlemen, we haven't hung out for close to a month now, I think, right?
Yeah, I took a hiatus.
We running around with Santa, or what's the deal?
Happy New Year.
David, I know you've been walking the dog.
Yeah, a lot of dog walking, but also a lot of like SEKAI working. So I just worked through. But I just got back from Barcelona. The food there is ridiculously good.
Oh, yeah.
I love Barcelona.
Do they take SEKAI tokens for payment?
They will, definitely.
They will. There you go.
We'll start there because that's the best food.
You might be a SEKAI maximalist.
I am, yeah, for
at
sure.
this point. Okay.
Yeah,
But
and
I think
Bitcoin. Bitcoin also right now, maximalism.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. All right. Well, it's good to hear some optimism because things have, been going down for about a year plus. And so it's nice to see people, but of course there's optimism at every point on the way down. So let's hope it's not sort of like that.
Yes.
As we know. So we're going to start off with Nick today, looking at your article you got, or Twitter feed. You're talking about Andrew Hoppin. What is he talking about when it comes to NFTs and saying there's no bear market?
Right. Well, that's exactly what he's saying. He says it hasn't felt like that in the memes punk 6529 community. There's a little thread that we'll attach below that talks about not only like the origin of the collection, but the mechanics behind it. We've talked about this in the past, but essentially what you have is a community and a platform that is introducing, or curated by Punk 6529, that's introducing everyone to new artists, copying off of the blueprint of Rare Pepe's. And the affordable cards with utility that kind of once you accumulate, you kind of it snowballs. You kind of become able to get on more allow lists for the next mint, for say, and then people have seen really good returns on a lot of these. I think there's a couple pictures that we'll put up here, but yeah, they were right behind Bored Apes in terms of volume yesterday. They went up 420% from the flat price. The drops are Monday, Wednesday, Friday. There's a big drop tonight, and it's Grant Young, probably the most coveted drop since the X copy drop that we talked about a couple months back. But yeah, the memes keep coming in hot for season 2. And I'm pretty psyched tonight. I got on the allow list, so I will be minting or attempting to mint here in an hour. Pending.
Are we holding you back from making a fortune?
Yeah.
Are you donating your time essentially, for maybe $20,000 an hour at this very moment, just to hang out with us?
So that's a wrap. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like pre-gaming for the mint, right?
It is.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
It's on the other half of my screen and on my phone. I'm pretty hyped. I've been psyched about it all day. The allow list came out about 2 hours ago.
So why is this successful though? I mean, why is their excitement built around this versus the rest of the NFT market?
That's a good.
What's the difference? I mean, should we be getting all excited again?
No,
I think it's the utility you said. The utility is the people who liked the rare Pepes and the meme art in the beginning. Then we had everybody join us, right? Like we talked about a couple months ago, the sociopath, the mops, the joiners, the 6529 memes really, like Nick was saying, have that rare Pepe feel. It feels like if you're into NFTs and crypto and you like these ideas, the utility is the art and burning for more art. It's not promising other stuff. But I think the core group who's into it is we're in the depths of the bear market. Like Bob Lucas just called the bottom. We're waiting for DCG to blow up. So if you're still here and still buying NFTs, you're here. Like you're going to be here for the next cycle. You're going to be around. You probably are, everyone asks who made money last round. A bunch of people did. Not Three Arrows and everyone, but some people did make money. And if you made money and you liked NFTs and you're still here, that's, I think, what's fueling this, because some of these drops, and Nick, correct me on the numbers, are 400, 200, maybe as many as 600 for some of the 6529 cards, but they're limited. So if you have 2,000, 5,000 interested people and 300 cards, he's got a great supply demand ratio. He doesn't need 10,000 of a PFP where you need 50,000 people to be into it to create demand.
Yeah, not to mention that his thing is cross-pollination. So he's bringing in card 51, which is Grant. He brought in like card 47, which was Kath Samard. Kath Samard was just featured on National Geographic. She's one of the top photographers in the world for like,
Oh, interesting.
Arctic, in Northern Lights shots and really cool stuff. So, so you're
So we're
bringing
not
those
talking just a
people.
stupid stick figure here.
Yeah, I think you're seeing also like I'll bring it back to the thread, yeah? So it's about leadership, right? Is what is
Uh,
kind of touching on what Jeff's saying too in terms of community, in terms of utility. Andrew says here in the thread that in just over a year, 6529 has become one of the most influential voices globally about the future of increasingly digitized society. Now, that brings us to the point when we talked earlier about the first online course that he kind of funded and backed and also taught at the University of Nicosia in Cyprus, right? It was the
all right,
first
we talked about
online.
that about a month ago. All
Yeah.
right, go on.
Yeah, that was all behind him, right? So in terms of leadership, like I think, and also someone who's altruistic, they say he's the favorite Web3 counterpart to everything that was wrong with SBF. And
Well, isn't it? It's all about gaining attention. So it's not necessarily the quality of the image. It's all about gaining attention for the image. And you're saying he's better at it than others.
Well, attention, but also the right stuff. He started writing threads before he even did the Ohm universe. Like he was famous for writing threads, on NFTs as they were emerging, and kind of established himself as a good, fair voice. Then did the university, then started selling stuff. So unlike a lot of people who come in and buy one NFT and drop a collection the next day, Justin Buford,
and he
actually built up stuff before. Sorry, David, I cut you off before.
No, go. Everyone go.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I would just say like there's like NFT art, and it kind of just went through an art phase, but now like there's increasingly like the idea of that it's like a club or a membership or a let's say participation in a movement. So let's say on the art thing, you're like, okay, I definitely am really into like, the blue phase of Picasso. So I want to own that, release. And so that's the kind of art side. But for my NFTs, like, and I was pretty late to the NFT game and understanding what it was about. But where I saw value is in, so for example, Kanpai pandas, I have those. And I also have blueberries. And the reason is because they do something. So for example, by owning it, you can put in to win tickets to the Raiders game in box seats in Las Vegas. I think that's the team. And then UFC fights. And there's other things that like that community is a part of. And as a result, it's more about joining a tribe. And it's interesting once you throw your panda up, you're like, I'm an OG panda. I've owned it since the mint because I see value here.
I got a question about that though. Is your blueberry tribe, because that's around GMX trading on Arbitrum, the Kanpai Panda tribe, I see the Twitter feed. Do you have the same community both places, or is the utility of trading form a different community than the utility of tickets?
Definitely very different. So it's interesting. Yeah, the followers, you, like obviously like GMX is a lot more like French. Interestingly, a lot of French like people in GMX, and then Kanpai is very American. But the key thing I think is that these are ways for you to kind of belong to a club, and then oftentimes, like Nick's saying, the leader really, is the thing that matters the most. So Icebags is like incredibly dedicated to Kanpai Pandas, and like he's out there and he's doing all these things, and he's, signing deals and celebrating that, and like that drives the project forward. If you don't have that, it's unlikely you'll succeed, unless you were like a really early, like, I don't know, I guess apes and CryptoPunks. So unless you have like a driving artist or visionary behind the project, then yeah, it doesn't seem that they kind of continue by themselves, because it's so kind of, it has to be live. It's a game you're playing essentially. It's culture you're belonging to. You can't just like buy the art and like, okay, now what?
All right, Nick, why don't you wrap us up here?
Yeah, no, that's it. Like, I think, like, not only that, but it's not a rug, right? It's a ritual. It's something that's going to happen every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's guaranteed. People show up for that ritual. I think in the bear market, people gravitate towards that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens,
It's all about community. All right, moving on to what I had thought of now. You'll see this on your screen, but if you're only listening, this talks about Bitcoin and regulation and the predictions for the future. So what Bitcoiners originally thought would happen when it was hitting close to 70,000 is that regulation would come in and then Bitcoin would continue to rise. The critics thought that as soon as regulation came in, then we'd watch Bitcoin fall. And what actually happened is Bitcoin fell and then regulation came in. So as I guess typical, regulation is just a response to FTX or other things that are happening in the market, though regulation probably came in before FTX. And what happened? I thought that having regulation was going to cause us to make a ton of money because that's what I thought. But, as soon as regulation comes in, then the moms are all going to jump in. Right now, it's just a bunch of Bitcoin bros, right? So we're going to get the women actually are going to be like, hey, maybe this is a rational thing.
The regulation, and
bros.
then there's putting it into play. Like I've been talking about since when banks have been able to hold and sell Bitcoin in the U.S. 2 or 3 years ago. But you can't actually do it in my bank interface yet. The regulation passed through. The selling it to people who aren't ready isn't there yet. And actually, FTX was
what
writing
regulation
the
are we talking
regulation.
about?
Well, this is just what the meme says, right? So yeah, maybe we don't have the regulate. Maybe there is some more regulation, at least investigation. But yeah, maybe it's not significant regulation to the point where, as to take Jeff's point, that you could actually.
Yeah, no, like that's the real problem. Like we don't have the regulation. We want it, and they just keep not doing it. And so, like, essentially, nothing's really changed. The only thing that's really changed is that they'd said to banks, "Look, crypto can be pretty volatile. You should really watch out for that." But they didn't say they couldn't do it. So yeah, like it's kind of weird. Like we don't really know. The only thing we know is that the SEC in past, as well as CFTC, has said that Bitcoin's not a security and Ethereum is probably not a security. Apart from that, though, yeah, I would say regulation via trial and like lots of court cases is coming for everything that's not.
Exactly. I think because the banks can hold it. But like, right, SBF was helping write new regulation, which is, they're taking it apart and keeping some pieces and changing it. The banks still wanted that piece because the clarity of you can hold Bitcoin for your customers. Is it a commodity? And they've said it is, but they haven't written it down on paper. So
when is this regulation coming then? Or do we have to wait for it to rise again if it does? And then when everybody's excited about it,
fell apart, but they're like Tom Emmer and stuff are bringing up the past bill, but fixing it, right?
Yeah, the Loomis bill I think is coming. Where I'm not really sure what it does, but it's a lot more. I think in terms of Bitcoin, the regulation is basically there. The only thing missing is a spot ETF, and when that happens, I mean, it will happen eventually. They're delaying it.
Well, how do we know what's going to happen? I mean, what incentive is there to make it happen? It's really not that big a part of the overall financial market.
It's more of a rising thing. It's like when you don't allow a spot ETF for Bitcoin, you force people to do things that are not as protected as that, right?
Which is what we're all doing.
Sure, exactly, right. And so you're supposed to be helping people, and you're not doing so by not doing anything. So eventually, the argument can be made that you're failing the public by not helping launch the spot ETF.
Yeah, eventually Gary Gensler has to leave. Right. He works for Goldman Sachs. He's fucked the American people the entire way. He doesn't care about anybody. His whole game is to screw the investor. Eventually he goes, and there are some people in the SEC who have had a reasonable approach, which is if we provide regulation, people can go out their business, right? They're about disclosure, not enforcement. And it's been done the wrong way for a while, but because their goal is incentivized from other financing sources, eventually different people come in, maybe they see the sense in passing this. Which actually, he's getting investigated for everything I'm saying, too.
All right, David, are you going to wrap us up here on this one?
Oh, no. I suppose it's just like in a word, too, probably regulation is that I think they just found like $5 billion of SBF's ill-gotten gains from Alameda and everything. So like people in FTX are going to get back at least, well, if the numbers are correct, like 50-60% of their money, which is kind of interesting. And that would probably be because of regulation on the U.S. side and all the other countries where they launched branches.
And that's cash and liquid coins. That's not counting their illiquid stuff. So it's looking 50 cents plus.
Mm-hmm. So that's potentially good news. Potentially promising, they say.
All right, let's talk about FTX. David, you got Ahluwalia's Twitter thread here explaining, talking about the $10 billion in losses. Where did the $2 billion in venture fund go? And you guys just talked about what, finding $6 billion in recovery in Alameda?
Yeah, Ram Ahluwalia from Lumida Research has been on Laura Shin's podcast Unchained, which you should watch because
I used to listen to that podcast.
Yeah, it's really good, and he's like ridiculously smart. And so essentially, what we're talking about here is the DCG situation, and yeah, FTX kind of helped cause a lot of these problems because DCG was very friendly with FTX, but The big problem is right now is that the remaining, I would argue, problem, apart from potentially Binance having solvency issues, which I don't think is true, is that DCG, which owns Grayscale, which owns the Bitcoin Trust, is underwater for about $1.6 million.
Only million. Oh, billion. Okay.
Yeah,
You scared me. I thought we were getting like real numbers.
yeah. So what happened is they have a trading arm, and then they have a holdings of Bitcoin arm, and this one over here basically is a market maker, and they offer money, and they blew up. Well, at least they had to take on $1 billion of losses because of 3AC and then FTX and all these other people who went under. And so they transferred that debt to DCG. They basically bailed them out. And so that debt came over here onto their books. Then the problem is that essentially they went too far underwater and they couldn't kind of get out of it. And the Bitcoin they hold, and this is why Gary Gensler, for example, is hurting people by not allowing them to be a spot Bitcoin trust, is that they hold Bitcoin in a trust, and it is trading currently at like 50%. Well, now it's 30, but 50% below the current Bitcoin price.
30 is better, but go on.
Yeah, and so it's come up recently, which is great for people, but for them, that means that their company is actually worth a lot less. They can't raise enough against, the debt they owe and all that stuff. So they're kind of potentially bankrupt. And Genesis over here lost Gemini money, so the Winklevi are very angry at them, and all of this is a huge mess. As a result, like the very worst scenario that could possibly happen, which it is pretty much proven not to be able to happen, is that they liquidate the Bitcoin Trust, where it's like, okay, in order to make this money back, we're going to make you sell everything, including liquidate the Bitcoin Trust, dump 600,000 Bitcoin onto the market. Price would just crash to like 8,000. But that doesn't make any sense because...
Yeah, I mean, why would that happen? Because the coins are in there. Why not just keep them in there?
If they have to pay the debt, they have to liquidate something to pay in cash. Because DCG owes it to Gemini. Gemini doesn't have it. And Gemini actually owes money back to... Sorry, DCG owes it to Genesis. Genesis owes it to Gemini. Gemini is called that loan.
Yeah, exactly. And so the thing is that, like, basically what would happen instead is they would say, well, this is actually an asset that generates $170 million a year in interest payments from people who hold it in the trust. It's a magnificent asset. It's the only thing in Barry's portfolio that is like super, super great. Why don't I just sell you this for like $1 billion rather than us tank the market and it be worth $500,000? Let's just do a deal. So that will be what happens is either they sell it to someone or they kind of put it in kind of indentured servitude to another company until they pay off the debt over like 5-10 years. But either way, like that's the last suppressing element of the market, really, unless there's someone else out there who's totally bankrupt. But the market is likely priced that in. Everybody knows about it, and it's unless they liquidated the Bitcoin Trust, which seems far-fetched now, there's really no other pressure to come from that circumstance. So up only, maybe.
There we go.
And he had another thread along with this, which is a lot of the pressure is coming from Fir Tree, and I can't remember the other. And there's another firm that say that again.
Valkyrie wants to kind of take over. They're like a predator. They're like, oh, I want to take over the Bitcoin Trust. That great asset you have, we'll give people less for it. So maybe they convince the major shareholders to come over. Or whatever. Yeah,
and what they're offering is 75 bips. So 0.75% of management fee rather than Barry Silver is charging 2%. So he holds your Bitcoin, takes 2% of your Bitcoin per year, not the cash value per year, and they're offering a better deal. But again, that's why we need an ETF. Is there should be the trust, right? The way it locks it in, it doesn't. Other companies don't necessarily want to start a competitive product at a lower fee rate. If it's an ETF and it's easier to do, you actually have competition, and then you can have multiple people holding who don't end up with DCG, who do offer different fees. And Gary said no to all of that. He basically said no to competition and no to safety and no to choice.
Yeah, I mean, there's one other element that I would probably throw into the mix as well, just to keep it fair to Gary, I guess, is more that like someone also was talking about Barry and the way that he's applying for the Bitcoin Trust, and it's kind of like
who's Barry?
Barry Silbert.
Barry Silbert owns DCG,
Okay.
the Bitcoin Trust.
Okay.
And they were saying, like, he hasn't really been following the right approach to do it. Like, he's not applying the really aggressive way. He's more applying the let's find out if this is a possible way.
Sure,
because
but
he makes
Coinbase has
2%
launched
per year. Like, as soon as he does that, the 2% is gone. Like, why would people pay him when they can just hold spot ETF?
right. But
So
other
it's
ETFs
kinda
have
like-
launched that have been denied. I'm not just talking
Yeah,
about him. Gary's
exactly. But
denied
it's
everyone
kind of
else.
like how you apply also matters and who you touch base with and stuff. Like, just thinking about it from the perspective of like, as soon as that happens, he loses $170 million a year in profit.
Mhm.
And that's the only thing that's profitable in his portfolio
Wow.
currently. So there is incentive for him not to do so.
Sure, but like the Winklevis have applied for an ETF, and other people have in competition with him, and they've been denied as well. And their
But he
incentive,
has money under management that is in theory getting hurt by this arrangement.
Oh, yeah.
So like it's more likely that one like has investors who need help rather than Winklevi like potentially wanting to.
Okay, so he needs the help but doesn't want it, and they want the help but don't need. The other people want it but don't need it.
Yeah, like currently, if you really think about it, if Gary Gensler tomorrow approved the ETF, DCG wouldn't go under, and all the creditors will be made whole on both sides of the aisle.
All right, I'll write him.
He would save all these people by doing that. But if he doesn't, all these people go bankrupt. So is he helping the consumer or not? I mean, interesting ethics.
Now, Jeff, you wanted to talk about something. Was it Bob Lucas predicting the bottom is happening and we're all going to be rich?
Bob Lucas in his 4-year cycles that we've talked about a lot, he's saying bottoms in time-wise, kind of price-wise. He's always
bottoms in right now, or we're still waiting for the bottom?
He always gives a week or two, and it's a look-back confirmation, but he has that approach of you're not going to catch it, but if you started buying as we approach the bottom and hit the bottom and after, so 2 or 3 months ago through to today, you probably did pretty good. Assuming it doesn't cut in half tomorrow, but that's the Bob Lucas idea. And it's, again, the time of the 4-year cycle seems to match up. So he called January 10th a couple years ago, and that's rolling along with yesterday. And like David said, if the DCG stuff isn't priced in and really does crash, I think we'd all be surprised. It does seem to be by now, which really it holds with what Bob called months ago. Time-wise.
Right. So basically enough crap has happened. You're saying it's not going to get worse. It survived itself down to 16 or so. Now we're at 17 plus.
Yeah. I mean, you have to
know whether DCG blows up or not.
Yeah. I mean, basically his point, and the way I've kind of been thinking about it recently is if you think about Bitcoin and you have like two types of holders, you have the exuberant speculators, and then you have the true believers. And so Bitcoin is like an inelastic and elastic asset class. So like when it's right now, it's relatively inelastic. People are just buying it every week as they normally do because the true believers are there, and you've reached that kind of support level of price in theory. When you get up to the top, this is all people who are just paper hands. They're like, I just want to make money. I don't care, whatever. And so like it becomes a very elastic good. And it kind of seems that like, this is why the 4-year cycle basically works, is like if you zoom out long enough, you can see you can see mob mentality playing out, and it tends to be relatively cyclical in behavior when it's like, okay, at the very bottom, when it's really down, everyone, after about a year, everyone just totally gives up. It's just human behavior. That's when all the true believers are still buying. They never stop buying. They just kind of buy every week. And then it kind of rides up again if you follow it. I would also just probably add that what's interesting right now is everyone believes that the recession's coming, it's definitely going to happen, et cetera, and so forth. What happens if inflation prints like 2 times lower? So it goes under 7 this time, which probably will. It's like predicted.
You're talking the U.S. or the European or market?
U.S.
Okay.
And then next month it goes to 5.7. And then in February they have the CPI meeting, right? That would be the 5.7 month. Then you're starting to see a question of like, is inflation decreasing too quick that we're going to enter a deflationary environment? Do we need to pause on rates? And then you start to see like people switching mentality. And so like the macro market as well as Bitcoin, it's all kind of, following each other at the moment, I would argue.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of who knows coming up, right? With the potential recession coming, we don't really know what's happening with interest rates to make the prediction that Bob's making.
Yeah. I mean, I heard if you're the first lemming off the edge, you get the best water, and you can like swim away from everybody else. And then,
right.
Yeah.
Where are you going to swim to, though?
Well, you don't know how deep the landing is.
That's true. Well, that's why the gutsy one goes first.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're
All right.
going up, you might as well go first.
All right, we're getting to the end of the show here. What else we got to say? Anything for the wrap up?
got
Predictions on price, I guess.
Okay, so 17 plus. What's it going to be next week?
Next
We
week.
haven't done a prediction in a while.
Yeah.
Here, let me look at my watch. See what it is right now.
17-2.
17-2 is the
Honestly,
official?
I've had so much fun with the memes in the last like 3 weeks. I haven't looked at a Bitcoin price chart in 2-3 weeks. So yeah.
I
That's
got
super
17-4.
important though, because right, everybody's in crypto except like you're saying, some people are just using the crypto to be in NFTs. So when we look at the crypto market and people are counting wallets and all kinds of different metrics, I think there's a lot of people like Nick is saying, trading price, whatever. We're trading memes, we're trading community.
Yeah, that's why the ETH price.
I'm just following the liquidity and the volume. Right now, even Crypto Kaleo is bringing Crypto Bros every day over to his wonky stonk NFTs, and he's got 500,000 followers.
Lovely.
So I think as crypto gets boring for the next couple of weeks, months, whatever, or if the bottom is in or not, more and more people are coming to NFTs because it's a party.
Yeah, there you go. It's a fun place to hang out and make friends.
Yeah.
I mean, and my campaign pandas are up 5-10x, something like that right now.
Nice one.
So, it's not
Happy
bad.
New Year, everybody.
Yeah,
Well
thank you.
Well done. All right,
Yeah.
so get involved, get into NFTs, and for those of you who don't have any friends, 'cause that's probably why you're in the crypto world. It's a great
But
place.
my price for next week is 21.
Wow.
21.
Wow.
Time to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sell
totally.
some NFTs.
Yeah, not
All right,
financial.
Not financial advice, of course, but
Yeah, we'll hold David at that 21. Cool. Watch our losses not be so lossy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my average is, that would be good. Anyway,
Okay.
we won't talk about that.
All right, buddy. It's been a pleasure. And
Cheers,
we'll
guys.
see you
See
again
y'all
next week at 21.
Yeah.
Already on.
Bye.
Perfect.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
No.
Yeah.
Go.
Bye.
Wait, what's this called? Big announcement coming soon? Yeah. 5, 4, 3, 2.